You have quite a sweet gym setup. I saw. Is that your home gym?
Absolutely, yeah. I've got a really good setup at home. Built a gym on the back of the house here, which is just outside of here. Now it's only about just a little bit bigger than maybe a two-car garage. Maybe it's a 2.5 car, size really. But it's got everything in there. It's got everything you need: leg press, leg extension, squat machine, power rack, pull downs. It's got everything you need. Dumbbells up to probably 35k, two of each dumbbell as well. So you've got plenty to go at. And also through the summer months, you can train outside because I've set out the decking area here, which is done as well. So you can train outside also. Yeah, it's very, very good with the clients I have. Semi-retired these days, so I don't do very much these days. But what I do is the people have been with me a long time, and I enjoy training a few a week. I maybe work 15 hours a week if that.
Okay. Given the situation of having your home gym, is that where you're doing mostly your training as well, or do you go to a public gym for yourself?
We mix and match it. We train at home sometimes, and also there's a couple of really good gyms near us. Figure and Physique, which is not far from us. There's an Ultraflex, which is only maybe 10, 15 minutes up the road. Now, Ultraflex is like the gyms in America. I heard you saying on one of your podcasts the other day that, the area you're in is nothing like America. Well, I think for the first time, our gyms in England, now like with the Ultraflex chain, rivals the USA in as far as gym.
Yes.
And this gym's amazing where we go, and I used to be really old school. I also go to Dickie's gym, which is very old school, and also one called the Pit in Dewsbury, again, which is very, very old school. I don't think that's altered since the 70s. The same equipment in it as had in the 70s. And Dickie's gym has old Northwest stuff from the 80s, never been touched. They've never had anything to have done to them. They're never
Wow.
broken. Like Arthur Jones said, he built them like tanks, and they still are like tanks. They really are very useful and very good pieces of kit. So I used to train with barbells and power racks and stuff all the time. But as I've got older, I've realised that, there's a lot of machines out there which would help me now as I've aged. You get to the point where you stabilise the muscles out of strong. I think that's where your strength actually goes. If you're benching and squatting and things like that, you just build up a lot of too much tension in your body and too much where you end up with a lot of inflammation. So, we're actually working on machines is a little bit more forgiving, and you can have a really good workout, work the muscle without working the joints or the small, intricate stabilizer muscles in the joints as well. So I seem to be getting on quite well by using more machines at the moment, which is giving me a new lease.
Well, first off, how old are you now, Ian, if you
I'm
don't mind?
58. I was 58 last week.
Okay, so you're right up there with Marshall Johnson now. You're
Yeah,
approaching
yeah,
that
he's 60
territory.
something. Yeah, oh, yeah. And listening to Marshall Johnson the other day, he was saying that now he's in his 60s, it can be better than ever. He's going to be better than ever. And I'm thinking, why am I like so down on myself and thinking I can't be good at this age? So it made me really change my mindset to listening to him and thinking, yeah, he's got the right mindset. He's thinking I'm going to improve as I'm into my 60s. And I'm thinking, I can't be as good. I'll be as good as I can be, rather than thinking, why don't you push this? Having listened to that and a few other things what have happened, things have just sort of fallen in place. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I need to be getting my act together and getting back on stage. So, my plan is probably to do something next year.
That's awesome. That
Maybe
is
again.
inspiring.
Yeah.
I'm obviously many generations younger. It's quite interesting how I've drawn inspiration from Marshall, right? And how you've also drawn inspiration from
Yeah.
Marshall. And
Yeah.
we're in completely two different categories of age,
Mm.
right? So, given that you're pretty much close to Marshall's age, I can see why that's super inspiring because it is a mindset thing. You're absolutely right.
It is,
And
absolutely, it is, yeah. I have another friend who's a brilliant competitor at 60, and I had a bad leg injury a few years ago, and I thought to myself, I can't compete with this injury. It's not going to look quite as good. And he says, Ian, it's just an excuse. You're just giving yourself an excuse not to do it. Loads of people have got injuries. You'll learn to pose it different and show it different. So stop making excuses. And I thought, yeah, that'll give me a slap in the face.
yeah,
It's right.
yeah.
It's right. It can be done.
Back to the training for a second here. I saw some clips you put up where you were training on the Nautilus. I think it was the first generation Nautilus equipment where
Yeah,
there
it
was
is.
like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
pec fly press combination that Arthur
Yeah.
Jones made. I think it was like the pre-exhaust line, but
Now I'm thinking
yeah.
of, and this is just the routine you've just seen, is me just experimenting with some machines just to see what feeling I get from it, really.
Hmm.
I have always used the sort of the Brooks Cubic type power rack work, squatting to the pins, bench press off the pins, the shoulder pressing off the pins, heavy dumbbells and chins and dips and deadlifts. And that is just not working anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to the point now where that is, if I do it, I have a good workout and then I can't move for 2 or 3 days. The inflammation you get in your traps and your upper back, and then you can't sleep, and that has a knock-on effect. You're not going to grow from that when you can't get the sleep, and you're in more pain. Last week, when I decided watching, listening to Marshall and, a few other things which have triggered this, I thought, right, I need to start using some machines, which I've used in the past. It might have been maybe a 10% of my programs, whereas now I'm going to try and make it 90% of my programs, because I think that will give me a new lease of life and make actually muscle tissue grow me again. I'm lighter than I should be. I'm not gaining the muscle back in order for me to be competitive, but it will come back. So to answer your question, yes, I'm thinking about using more machines, and I don't do HIIT exclusively, and I don't do volume. I have somewhere in the middle. I have principles, and I stick with those principles because I know that's all I can recover from. Because at the end of the day, it's recovery. You can train and have an awesome workout, and like Marshall said, he said that you've got to live to train another day, and I was like, he's so right, because I can kill myself in the gym, and then I won't be able to train again for 2 or 3 days because you just can't move. So the principles are there because I know that I can recover from that, and then I follow those. And that basically is, if before you ask that question, it's I can only train 3 days a week. I can't seem to recover from any more than that. Everybody's different. My training partner trains with me, a chap called Vince, and then he'll go and do CrossFit 2 or 3 times a week, and he's 62. Wow. And also he'll do biking on a Thursday for about 80 miles, and his recovery system is massively not in the same realm as what mine is. And I think it depends on how you are emotionally, how you handle stress. I mean, I don't have any stress these days at all. There's no money worries or anything like that. I'm not stressed in any iota, but I still must have a nervous disposition where I just cannot recover from too much work, too much hard work. I just can't.
It's interesting you say that, because even me at my age, if you get too greedy, let's just call it what it is. If you get too greedy in a given training session and you start to do these exercises that deadlifts and chin-ups and, heavy bench presses, multiple sets, hard to failure even, or very close to it, I'm wiped out for 3 days. Next thing you know, I'm only training 2 days a week. And it's not a good feeling, the 3 days after the training session.
Whereas exactly hitting what I'm hitting there. Absolutely.
So I don't even think it's necessarily an age thing more than it is a, do you understand your own body thing?
Yeah, and I think what you've got to do.
That's what you have to do, versus let's see, this person's doing that. Okay, let me try to adopt that. This person's doing that. Let me try to adopt that. When it's done inappropriately for your body because you don't understand your own body yet, or maybe you don't understand the principles like you mentioned, combination of the two, or maybe you're trying to dismiss it because you want to cater to your own preferences. Next thing you know, you're basically experiencing the same thing that you just mentioned, and you're 30 or you're 25. And I think there's a lot of value to be extracted there for the listeners who are tuning in. Make sure that you're not just arbitrarily adopting what it is someone else is doing without considering your own personal needs.
Yeah, it might be your favorite bodybuilder, and your favorite bodybuilder, what you're doing is you're wanting to obviously follow what they're doing because you've got all that inspiration on YouTube or whatever you're seeing, and you're trying to follow what they're doing. Well, you're not thinking for yourself. My favorite bodybuilder out of all the bodybuilders is Bill Pearl, and he trains hugely different. Well, he did do. It was a sad day when he passed away, but his longevity, and that was amazing. But he trained 6 days a week with high volume, and no matter how much I love Bill Pearl and how much I admire him, I couldn't do that, and I've never tried it. I maybe tried it for a week, maybe did a few exercises similar to his for a week, but only 3 days. That's not for me, no matter how much I love Bill Pearl. And a lot of people, what they do is they try training a certain way, and then they're not making the gains, so they start to look to other things. They start to say, I'm not taking the right supplements, I'm not taking a pre-workout, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. So they start to add all these things in rather than looking at the main thing. Is it too much work for your body and mind and system? I have a little saying, and I say it a lot to my clients, as I say, look, you've got this bucket, so to speak, of stress inside you, and things like too much work or falling out with your girlfriend or the boss having a go at you or money worries or anything is just going to fill your bucket and it'll overspill. Whereas where you'll end up with overtrained or you end up with an illness, it can be anything. Everybody's got their weak point, and my weak point is my stomach. Now, if I overdo things, I get where my digestive system just out of whack completely. So I can't eat, really trap wind, I get a lot of bad stomach. And I know that through all my training diaries over all the years, I've been able to see when I go too far, my overtraining affects my stomach. Other people get colds. Some people might get cold sores. Some people might get a nagging injury where the lower back just gives out on them all the time. That is your key, what's telling you you are overdoing it. So the key is to try and lower all the stress in your life as much as you can, and only allow your training never to overspill inside you, because your body only knows stress. It doesn't know whether the stress you're getting chased by a tiger or whether you're having a workout, really hard workout. It only knows one level of stress. So you've got to manage that more than anything, because we're trying to stress the body to make it improve, but you only have to give it just enough dose, really.